Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Hey there.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing good, but I am not in my office, so I am driving back. So I'm going to be in the background for a few minutes.
Okay, I'll be in the foreground for a few minutes.
Well, for the whole hour, I hope.
Yep, I think so.
Are you ready for a big weekend?
I am ready for a big weekend. Hey,
Me
Janelle,
too.
Hi.
welcome.
Thank
Lisa
you.
Marie David is on the line, but she's not on visual yet. She's in her car and
Hi,
want you
Lisa.
to meet each other.
Hello.
Lisa Marie is in Memphis, and she and I have been working together in a mentor protege relationship and colleague relationship for what, 5 years, Lisa?
Well, since 2017 with Ziegler, but we go back to 2014, I think it is, or 2012.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
When you gave me a tour of St. Jude's.
that's correct.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome.
And Janelle is Brian Orton's partner. She's in Oregon, and she's in the business of helping people get unblocked.
That's it.
Oh,
Yep. So
Good job,
she's-
Jen. That's what we worked on the other day, that wording.
That's right. And she's part of the team now. So this is exciting. By the way, you see my t-shirt?
yep.
Killing it.
Killing it. Wait till you see the back of it. You should see me in front of an audience. That's from eSpeakers. And eSpeakers is the outfit that does the back end of the membership directory for the National Speakers Association. And they have a lot of the back end operations for speakers and experts who do marketing of their personal services. They've been in business a long time and been great friends of mine, and I've got a master contract with them. And Dave Reed, one of their founders, one of their two founders, is one of the endorsers on my new book. And by the way, just I'll do a quick screen share and show you what I've got cooking for the new book. Hang on a sec. Books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that topic, Jim, our video, can you send it to me in a different format? I am not able to pull it off of Yelpy or whatever that is that you sent it to me, Yelpy. I'm not able to pull that video off. Do you have another?
Udly.
Udly.
But you can see the video, right?
I can see it fine, but I want to pull it off so that I can share it to my social media platforms.
Oh, you mean the one where you
admin.
interviewed me?
Mm-hmm.
Not sure I have that.
Okay, well, maybe I can screen record it. I haven't tried that. I've tried other things that have not worked successfully, but I have not tried screen recording it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't think I've got that on a recording.
Okay.
Let me just a second, I'll check.
Lisa, do you know how to pull recordings off of, would you call it Yelpy?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay.
What day did we do it?
Last Thursday, I believe.
Do you have a number?
I can look it up. Give me a second.
Second. It was the 18th. And I've got, no, I do not.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Let me get this speaker book, launch day. Wanted to show you what I've done for this recently. I created a bookmark, and it's been printed and it's on its way to me. By the way, I'm going to let Udly in just a second. Well, good. Michelle's with us. So here's the bookmark. Can you see that okay, or do I need to increase the size?
I can see it fine.
Okay. I'll see if I can make it any larger. Oh, yeah, I can make it a lot larger. Wow. Wow. Hi, Michelle Abraham.
Hey guys, nice to see you all.
You too. And Troy in the background, no doubt. This is my new bookmark for the book, for the speaker book. And I just printed this up and it's on its way to me. But look at the list of leading speakers who recommend it. Dennis Waitley, Les Brown, Brian Tracy, Michael Reagan, Ronald Reagan's son, Ivan Meisner of BNI, Nito Kubain, Patricia Fripp, Tom Hopkins, David Averin, who's a Hall of Fame NSA speaker, Don Hudson, Howard Partridge, Tom Ziegler, Zig's son, Jason Dorsey, Scott McCain, Steve Spangler, Al Walker, Jan Payne, Michael Butler, Kate Hancock, Matthew Pollard, John Willard, Eric Swanson, Terry Brock, Dave Reed, Mark Hunter, etc., all the way down. So that's happy news.
That is.
I did a bookmark like that for the Acorn Principle years ago and had leading authors on that, and Jack Canfield and all those other people that endorsed it. So that's one of the things I'm doing for this book launch. And another thing I'm doing is I'm doing a flyer for the book launch that's like this, but it's in color. And so that's on some bulletin boards here and there. And I've invited a bunch of people to come to the book launch. So June 1st, I'll be at the bookstore doing all kinds of fun things and FaceTiming it and maybe doing a Facebook Live from there on the table, in the bookstore, so that people can come in. And then anybody that comes by, I will do on the spot hot seats. So if someone says, hey, I'm working on a new project, I'll say, sit down and we'll work on them for a minute or so.
Nice.
If someone says, I'm working on a story. Good, tell me your story. All right, good. Here's what I suggest. So I'll do that like I did in Portland the other day for the audience there. So, Michelle, you have not met Janell. So the two
No,
L's.
nice to meet you.
We have met. Michelle and I have met.
Oh, have
We
you?
touched
Okay.
base on podcasts the other day.
That's right.
There you
That's
go.
right.
Good.
Yeah, good to see you again.
You too. I like
And
your shirt,
Michelle,
Jim.
I'm
Killing
in
it. That's so
uniform
good.
today, as you can see.
I love it. It's so
Okay.
good.
Well, this is Ask Jim Friday, okay? And Janell is joining us ongoing now. She's going to be moving into the spot where Brian was. Brian's still part of the network, but Janell's taking the front row seat. And so I want, her to get to know everybody and back and forth. But this is Ask Jim Friday. What's Ask Jim Friday? Glad you asked. This is the day when I'm available for all of you to be able to answer your questions and give you a moment in the hot seat, so to speak. So Michelle, what's going on in your world and how can I provide some input that might be helpful?
Yeah, great question. I just got back from spending 5 days in Boulder in Colorado at a women's retreat called Relaunch that one of my clients, Hillary DeCesar, puts on, and it was amazing. It was the first time I'd been on a trip that I wasn't speaking at or doing sales for or doing, I wasn't in that work environment yet. There were some of my clients there, which was great. And it was really nice to just have that nourishing bit of self-reflection time. And one of the things that I reflected on that I really would like to start doing is that to use my zone of genius really is in connection and collaboration with other people. And so I have this idea for something that I want to roll out this year called Aligned Adventures. where I'm going to take people and we're going to go on and do an experience where it gets them out of their comfort zone and get a little joy back into their life. And then some little bit of masterminding with other entrepreneurs, and just a little bit of magic in there too. So as I'm kind of like pivoting into like this aligned adventures, of course, we're still doing podcasting. That's our main business. I'm just wondering, Jim, what your expertise is when you start to introduce something new into your business and into your life. What in your experience has been the most successful way to like, let people know that yes, you do this, but you're also now doing this.
This kind of goes back to what Robin said to me a couple of weeks ago. Robin Kreisman, part of this. He said, Jim, you're doing so many things, I'm confused. And I said, Robin, I'm only doing one thing, helping people succeed. He said, yeah, but you've got the Going Pro and the Experts Academy, and you've got the books, and you've got the, yes, I do. It's kind of like a house that has doors all around.
Right.
It's still the same house. So you can get in here through my books. You can get in here through my video courses. You can get in here through having me as your speech coach for a short time, or you can sign up for the Going Pro Experts Academy. And that's a year-long commitment or only a 3-month commitment, depending on how much you want from it. And the first 3 months of it are focused on getting you clarity, confidence, and courage. And that's the Going Pro experience. And the rest of it is Going Pro Experts Academy, which takes you to the point where you get certified at the end as a certified professional expert, literally. And he said, okay, well, that makes more sense, but how do you market that? Where do you start? What about Jim the speaker? It's the same guy that lives in that house, one expert. The only thing is, how do you want him? Do you want a snack? You want a meal? You want a full course? Or are you looking for a lifetime nutrition plan? That's pretty much me. So that's what I would say, Aligned Adventures is part of Amplify You. And Amplify You, I think, might be your better hook. So it's amplify your life, amplify your experience, amplify it's so that they keep the common brand,
Right.
And see that what this is about is what through podcasts you help people do, but now you're going to help them do it through live adventures.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, like amplify your life, your vision, usually like your vision, your voice, and your visibility. There's something in there about like vibration, because if amplify your vibe is to go on an adventure and get out
I
of
would
that.
say, yeah, amplify your vibe is great. And
Yeah.
I would say amplify your vitality.
Vitality, that's good. I like that one.
Here's a good hook line for you. Live louder.
Live louder. I like that.
Live
Yeah.
louder. Amplify your life and business.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
Live louder.
I gotta put that down. Jim, for this trip, I had to fly out of Seattle. And so I drove from Vancouver down to Seattle for my flight, and I listened to the CD that you gave us in Texas when I was there a few weeks ago, of one of your speeches. And I just died laughing the whole time. It was so good. I was like, you had like
Really?
so
Thank
about
you.
the guy who had the car detailing service
Jim-
that just blew
Jim
up
Stewart.
and like it was like it was so funny. There were so many good so many good stories in there, so much good knowledge and so much good wisdom in there. And I'm sorry, I'm hogging this, Janelle. I'm gonna ask Jim another question. I was
Thank
wondering,
you.
do you when you're doing that, is there a certain amount of stories you add in? Like, you make it sound so like natural, like you're just having a conversation, and that some of it was spur of the moment stuff that you added into that
Right.
because your family was there, and
Yep.
you introduced Jim Jr. and so do you always have like same sort of framework, and then you can tweak things a little bit here and there based on who the audience is that you're speaking to?
Yeah. One of my mentors was the first president of the National Speakers Association, Bill Gove. The founder was Cavett Robert, the man in the statue over there in the corner. But the first president was Bill Gove, and Bill was a sales motivator, but he was among the funniest people I've ever met in my life. And one of the things that he said, I was talking with him about how he structured presentations. He said, Jim, I've got about 30 hours of content. He said, I know because I've worked with it intentionally, and I literally have documented that. He said, and so when I get an assignment, so Janell calls and says, Jim, we need you to speak to the Oregon Feed and Seed Association at their annual meeting. And this is a planting for the fall theme. You know, what do you got? Well, he said, I would go to my file and I would pick out the stories and examples and key points relevant to that. But I wouldn't pick up a speech and do it. I would do modules. He called them vignettes. So the story about Tim Seward at Tidy Car is a vignette, and it has 4 parts in it. And the first part is about me speaking at a conference in Chicago for a small group of people, and this 19-year-old kid who just bought an auto detailing franchise for $1,500 is in the audience and wants to live a big life and become the international sales leader. You know, just innocent looking little 19-year-old kid. And so I give him some advice. And part 2 is he goes back home and he implements the advice literally exactly as I prescribed it. And wow, his world expands. And the third part of that story is he goes to the annual convention, and he knows he's in the running to be the international sales leader, but he doesn't know that he's won. And so I'm there as the keynote speaker, and there's a huge audience from around the world. And when the moment comes, he's the international award winner, and he comes to the stage and he wins a Corvette. And I asked him, what did you do? He said, I just did what you said in Chicago at that first little meeting when I asked you for advice. And I say, specifically, what was it I said that was so good? And that gets a big laugh, okay? Well, then I leave that story and I go on with my speech, and I come back to part 4, which is like 3 years later. He's living in Florida. He sold his business with Tidy Car and moved to Florida, and he's investing his money. He sold his business for $7 million, this 19-year-old kid. So now he's down in Florida, and I said, Tim, I just got one question for you. Do you have a quote? You know, so I'm asking him the same thing he asked me in Chicago years before when he was a 19-year-old kid. Now he's a multimillionaire, and I'm saying, okay, will you advise me? So that was the way that structure of that story worked.
Yeah, it
Well,
was so good.
I was used to telling that story 1, 2, 3, 4. But for this Toastmasters Golden Gavel speech, I thought, what if I tell it 1, 2, 3, 4? And, you know, have other speech in between those gaps. And sure enough, I did. And it really, really worked well. Well, I also used slides as my speech outline. And so I had slides like, what do you expect? You know, what you expect, the future you envision in your mind determines what you get prepared to deal with. So if you expect there's a dark future and the world's going to hell in a handbasket and we're all doomed, then you're going to be all about protection and defense, hiding from the danger. If you expect the future is going to be filled with opportunity, and if you don't do something intelligent and proactive, you'll miss those opportunities, then you're going to gear up for a multitude of possibilities and stay alert for where the opportunities are. It's kind of like if you're going pheasant hunting, you tend to take a gun that would work on pheasants, and you tend to go where pheasants are, and you tend to look for pheasant symptoms. Was that one? You know, was that one? You know, so you're on the alert. Well, that's the way whatever you expect determines what you prepare to deal with. And that's the way I structured that speech. And then when I got up, I knew I had to open the speech. Now, Janelle, this was a speech to 1,500 people from all over the world, Toastmasters International. And this is their big awards banquet. And it was the Golden Gavel Award. And that's one that had been given to Tony Robbins and Earl Nightingale and Zig Ziglar and Walter Cronkite and, all these huge names over the years. Well, I was honored to get it in the year 2001, the month before 9/11. But anyway, in August of 2001, I was the Millennium recipient of the Golden Gavel, meaning I was now at the same level, at least in this context, as all my heroes had been over the years. Wow, big deal. And this was still in the days of head tables. So they had 3 levels of head table behind me. And so this is pomp and ceremony. It was like this year in August of 2022, I spoke as the opening ceremony's keynote speaker for Toastmasters International, and they were holding the meeting in Nashville this time. And just before me, they had a parade of flags. 149 people came in holding different flags of the different countries.
Oh, wow.
So huge ceremonial thing. And at that one, Toastmasters Golden Gavel 2001, all those people were present and they had that kind of a ceremony. So when I got up on stage, I couldn't just say, "How's everybody doing?" Or I couldn't just start my speech by saying there are 5 reasons and 5 reasons only why people won't buy from you today. That was a Zig Ziglar opening from years ago. So I had to get up and say, "Thank you very much, Madam Chair, honored guest, ladies and gentlemen," and then I had to start the speech that way. And so that was my thinking on it. Does that say Dad's Barbecue?
It does. I stopped here for a second. So I'm like, oh, I think you'll like this sign.
I love the sign.
I know you're all
Dad's
well barbecue.
Barbecue, grilling, chilling and grilling. There you
Yeah.
go.
It says, "Stand back, Dad's cooking."
I love it.
I didn't mean to. I
Yeah.
was just going in. I'm gonna cook my lunch while we were chatting, but I just thought.
Wow. It's frozen for the moment, Michelle. Don't know if you can hear me, but wow. That's such an amazing place to be.
Show
I
you
heard-
guys how it unfreeze for you.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, beautiful.
Wow, that's a beautiful view.
Yeah, so that's our
And
lake.
that's every day for you.
Yes, isn't that amazing?
Yes, it is.
Our lake doesn't go down. I was noticing some of them in Texas. The lake goes down, and then the boats
Yep.
are dry docked, but that doesn't. The lake doesn't move at all. So yeah, this is our little house here that we have. At
Love
we moved into my in-laws' summer cabin. So my husband had to build me. Sorry, I didn't mean to take you on a tour today, but my husband built me a little tiny house where I can get my work done over there.
Nice.
Well,
Yeah.
Janelle can identify with that because they're building a tiny house.
Right,
and-
Janelle? Yeah, this is my
Yeah, they're
podcast
under
studio,
construction.
Janelle. Yeah.
Outstanding.
Exactly. I'm still here. I'm just going to turn my camera off. I just got to cook lunch quickly while I'm listening.
Okay, well,
Okay.
will you be listening?
I'm still listening. Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, so I'm going to continue to answer in relation to live louder.
Yes.
Thinking about the concept of aligned adventures, the hook that has integrity with your organization is live louder, amplify your life, amplify yourself, amplify your experience.
Yeah.
Aligned adventures, and then you can outline everything you want in there. But it's the effect that you're selling. The adventure is a way to get the effect, which is feeling great, being more confident, having had another bucket list experience in your life. Those are the effects, and everything else is just packaging and marketing. But I see it as being completely compatible with Amplify You. Any comments on it, Janelle? Any observations?
Yeah, I'm really resonating with the live louder. When you said that, I went, oh, ping, 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 ping. And then how do we get there? Right. And what are we louder at? Oh, we're louder in our businesses, we're louder in our presentation, we're louder in, fill in the blank that people get to do that. But I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and you can also pick up, Michelle, on loud and proud. Just apply that to anything, any aspect of what you're doing. And just, you could say when you're talking to podcasters or potential podcasters, say, do people hear your message? Are you living loud enough? Is your business loud enough in the marketplace to get heard over the din of everybody else that's out there? So loudness, how do you achieve loudness? Amplify you. Let me show you how.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get heard above the noise? That would be a good hook, a good headline. How do you get emphasis on you? How do you get heard above the noise?
I love that. And like without shouting, right? Because
Yeah.
there seems to be a lot of people shouting. And, try to
Exactly.
get them to magnetize people to them.
Yeah. You could
That's
shout, you
awesome.
could scream, or you could speak more clearly to the market you're going after.
Ooh, that's good, Jim. Thank you.
There you go.
Mhm.
And shout and scream, you could even characterize, shouting if someone seems obnoxious and rude. Screaming, someone is stretching their limits and hurting their voice. And they're probably based in fear, whereas shouting is based in anger. Screaming would be based in fear. And getting heard is based in amplification.
Mhm.
And yeah, if you're speaking to one, talk in a normal voice. If you're speaking to 1,000, talk in a normal voice and amplify yourself.
Mhm.
And you can use this to whatever extent it works for you. Mic drop, thank you. The meeting planner in Towanda, Pennsylvania, many years ago, when I arrived the night before the speech, Towanda's way off the beaten path. It's kind of like where you are. I arrived at this place and checked into my motel and contacted the meeting planner. And he said, "Hey, Jim, do you really need a microphone?" And I said, "No, I'll hear everything." And then there's this pause. And he said, "Oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about that." I said, "Yeah, the microphone's not for me. The only reason I requested one is for the audience, because I will hear everything I say. But if you want them to hear everything I say, I'm going to need to be amplified."
Mhm.
I love that story. I might have
Yeah.
to borrow that story. That's so good. Thank you.
Yeah. So when they say the speaker wants a microphone, no, the speaker wants to be heard
Mhm.
on just the tool we use to get that accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah, like introducers, they say, do you have a curriculum vitae that I can read? No, but I'll tell you what, if you'll just tell the people this, and I hand them a little short intro, this is why Jim Cathcart speaking to this group at this time on this topic, and just tell them that, and then read the second part if you want to. The second part, it says, our speaker today is, first part, Jim Cathcart. He's the author of he better than, Experts Academy, etc. But there's another side. This is part two. There's another side to our speaker that's more interesting. He's also a nightclub singer. He's been a bartender, a bill collector, an insurance agent, association executive. He's started an internet marketing company. He's been president of the National Speakers Association. He's a lifelong member of the American Motorcyclists Association. And he may not be able to hold a job, but I understand he can hold an audience. Here's Jim. So if they want to, they can get a laugh at my expense. And then I come out on stage and people are already smiling. And then I can go anywhere I want to go. I could say, like Zig said, in 1977 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when I was not a full-time, I was just barely a full-time speaker. I was in his audience. He walked out into the room and he didn't even acknowledge the introduction. He said, there are 5 reasons and 5 reasons only why a person won't buy from you today. And we all looked at him and he said, 1, no money. 2, no interest. 3, no trust. 4, no authority. 5, no time. Let me tell you how to deal with all 5 of those. Now, I remember that verbatim, 40 some odd years later? Seriously? I wonder how many other people in the audience also had that deep of an imprint because the opening was so strong. Because we were there to learn how to sell better. And that's the whole idea of being heard, living loud, amplifying yourself, being clear, cutting through the noise, everything else or anything else that would be in their head, right? There you go. Janell, you're up.
Okay, got my wheels turning, Jim. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, now I have to come back to my own question because that's just got me going. Woo. Yeah, so storytelling, that's my theme too. So question for you is that I want to drive home the point that connected to the course that I am highlighting at this time is about purpose work, finding your purpose, living with purpose. What does that even mean and what does that look like? And often people are out here looking, here's my purpose, it's out there. And I have a real story. My great-grandfather, he bought a plot of ground in southern Idaho. And he was a farmer and he bought this plot of ground. He went to plant it, watch his crop grow, but it didn't grow. It just died. And he's like, what the heck? So he gathers up his resources and he replants again and gets ready to watch it grow. And it just dies.
Ooh.
So he's discouraged. He says, I'm going to lose my shirt. So he sells that plot of ground to a man named Simplot and moves on, farms somewhere else. Well, Simplot gets curious. Why isn't this growing any crop? And he tests the soil and it is pure fertilizer.
Wow.
And so he bags that up, sells it for millions, is one of the biggest fertilizer outfits in the Northwest, owns the majority of the ranch, the biggest ranches on this side of the probably Idaho, Washington, and who knows where else, Oregon. So my, no judgment on great grandpa, but the point is that he was sitting on his gold mine.
His acres of diamonds.
His acres, the same story, right? A different scenario, the same story. And because he didn't know, this is how it's supposed to look. This is who I am. This is what I do. He missed the opportunity. He missed what was there sitting for him.
That's brilliant. That story is such a powerful metaphor. And the fact that it's personal to you makes it doubly powerful. Yeah, let's run with that. Let me talk for a minute about the roots behind that story, behind the acres of diamonds side of it. Russell Herman Conwell was a Civil War officer, and he returned to wherever he was in Pennsylvania, I think. And I don't remember what he was doing. Seems like he was a preacher or something. I'm not sure about that part of it. But he gave a speech one day telling a story about a guy named Ali Hafed who lived in Africa and had bought a farm, and the farm or a plot of land, the plot of land was just filled with rocks and he couldn't raise any crops on it. And one day he was sitting there and a visitor came, a traveler, stopped over and stayed with him. And while he was there, he said, what's that up on your mantelpiece? He said, oh, this rock? He said, that's just, that's a decoration from here on the property. And he said, well, that's fascinating. He said, it makes me think of something. He said, are you familiar with diamonds? And the guy said, no, I don't know about diamonds. He said, well, diamonds are, the purest jewel in the world, and they are. And he goes on and on about how wonderful diamonds are. And so Ali says, how do you find diamonds? He said, well, you look for a land where blah, 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 and he describes what he thinks is an indicator of diamonds. And so Ali Hafed, I think that was his name, he sells his farm and he goes off on a quest to find diamonds, and he's going to get rich. And he goes all over and he finally dies destitute, and he never found diamonds. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, somebody buys the place, sees this rock, chips away at it, finds out it's a diamond. But it's in a raw state, it's not in a cut state, so it doesn't look like a diamond, right? This ends up being the Golconda diamond mine, richest diamond mine in the world at the time. I don't know if it still is, but this guy was literally sitting on acres of diamonds and didn't realize it and went off looking elsewhere. So Conwell tells that story and it gets popular, and he gets invitations to go all over the country by horse and by train and by buggy back in those days after the Civil War. And every time he would go into a city for a speech, he would go a few days early, and then he would go around and interview people and look for stories like yours, Janell. And he would weave those into his speech. And of course, people, because he was there and he was helping promote the event, people would come from all over the area to hear him speak. And he was drawing big audiences. And he gave hundreds of these speeches all over the nation and raised so much money that he founded Temple University with it. Temple University was founded on the purpose of providing educational opportunity for young people who didn't have access to money and couldn't have gone to college otherwise. Kind of a big deal. And wow. Wow, what great roots. Well, several years ago, a friend of mine from Tennessee, Steve Hewlett, who was a politician, a real estate developer and other things, wonderful guy, bought me as a personal gift an original copy of Acres of Diamonds, the book. Now, we're used to seeing it as a little booklet like this, right? This one was more like, I don't know, I don't see one up on the shelf, but it was this thick. So it's like 3 inches, 4 inches maybe across on the spine, and imprinted on cloth with gold imprint. I mean, literal gold, whatever they call that, gold leaf on the cover. And of course, it was worn away because this was an old book. And I read through this thing and it was wonderful. And it was just page after page of the local stories he had unearthed in developing this whole thing. So what you might want to do is get a copy of the unabridged version of Think and Grow Rich by Russell Herman Conwell.
Okay.
And you, first off, you'll love reading it. And you might want to do something Paula and I did with a couple of books. The most recent books that we've really gotten into, we took turns reading a chapter aloud to each other. And you and Brian could both get into this big time. But the book will stimulate so many ideas for you in how to use your great grandpa's story.
Mm-hmm.
And you can build your brand around your great grandpa's story, because your great grandpa's story is even better than the diamond story. Diamonds aren't fertilizer. Fertilizer will grow anything except what your grandpa was planting,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it can be used to grow other things. And that's the thing. Many of the things that we think are useless because we're used to them, and we've used them in the past, they've served their usefulness. They are a fertile ground for something else.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to drive home and use it for the point that we get blocked in. So, as I help and support highly successful people, but they come to a place where they get blocked, we get so used to being like this. And this is that we don't see it. And that's where I come in. That's where I facilitate. It's, well, let me take a look. I'm a different set of eyes. I got a different perspective. Let's show you where your diamond is. Let's show you where's that riches. The riches are right there, there.
And by the way, you can also characterize fertilizer as growth food.
Okay.
And that's useful.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm curious about is, why wouldn't the crops he planted grow in the fertilizer medium? Do you know?
Because it's too strong. Too strong of a fertilizer just kills a plant.
Okay.
Yeah. Too much nitrogen, too much. What's the other one? It just left my mind. There's the other key one it just cooks it.
Yeah. Outstanding. Well, that's a point that needs to come out in your story, because some people will wonder about that.
Okay.
And that's interesting. You can also use that as another little side street, and that is to talk about, if you've got too much fertilizer and not enough whatever, then you could be overly empowered. Like if someone takes steroids, there are uses for steroids. But if you take too many steroids, then it messes up your whole body.
Mm-hmm. Too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
But is that get out in the weeds? I guess maybe it depends on with whom I'm speaking, right? What's this? What am I trying to drive home with this story? Because I guess where my mind was taking it was, the gift is in you. The gifts are in you. And purpose work is there. If you're operating and discovering who you are, then you're operating in your purpose. You're looking out here to find it, but it's right here. That's what I was driving.
That's a big point. And that's something I've made, the point I've made in the Acorn Principle and some of my own other works, that you do not find purpose out there. You find purpose in here.
Mm-hmm.
Single time. Don't go looking for your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Look for ways to express your purpose. Well, what's my purpose? Let's get to know you. We spend time looking in you for your purpose, because your purpose is what you care about. Your purpose is found in your DNA.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk about businesses, let's say I'm talking to the ownership team or leadership team of a business and they want to grow the business. I'd say, well, first off, let's draw a picture of the business. And they will typically start to draw an organizational chart, boxes with the owner at the top. And I say, no, that's a description of a machine, but a business is a living organism. It has parts that are mechanical, but the business itself is organic.
Mhm.
And physics is not the study, not the discipline for studying organisms. Biology is. So let's use a tree as our metaphor and have a growth system above ground and a strength system below ground. You can't have too much of either side, because you can outgrow your roots and fall over and die, or you can have all roots and no growth and nothing ever happens, right? So that would be the same as too much fertilizer, not enough growth, and not enough outreach. So when I talk about it, I say the interesting thing about an organization that's a tree, this is its sales and marketing and outreach, and this is its suppliers and resources and systems and all that, okay? Every cell of that tree, from the deepest taproot to the tallest leaf, has the exact same DNA. What is the DNA of an organization? Mission, vision, values, beliefs. Its purpose. Mission, visions, values, beliefs. That's what tells you what business you're in.
Mhm. And what role of, because this is what I think, and this is what I tend to see for people. So I want to see how this resonates with you. It's the gift of you. It's the intuitive part of you. And it's going to look different for you, Michelle, Lisa, myself, but that's what amplifies us.
Yeah.
That's what moves us ahead of anybody else, is when we really identify, well, that's you. That is your intuitive gift or gifts, and we can expand those. We can expand those, and there's your tree. Okay, that might just tie right back into your tree.
And once you are truly focused on your purpose,
Mhm.
need as much amplification.
Hmm.
Because the clearer you get, the more easily you can articulate whatever it is you're going after. It's like if Paula and I say, let's go to the lake. Well, how big is the lake and which lake?
Mhm.
Say we narrow it down to Lake Travis. Okay. How much of Lake Travis exists? Miles and hundreds of miles of shoreline. Okay. We're going to the lake. Are we coming in from the sky? No. So where are we going to put in? Well, I don't have a boat. Ah. So you want to go to a beach? No, I just want to sit in a restaurant on a hillside above it and look at the lake. Oh, so you want to go to the Oasis? Yeah. They open in 15 minutes. Great, get in the car. All of a sudden, goal accomplished, because we got clear on what we wanted. It wasn't just go to the lake. It was be in that setting and experience that. And it narrowed our options down to where we could easily choose. Whereas another person says, let's go to the lake. Great. I'll check the boat and make sure we've got fuel and everything's in it. And you get the car ready and make sure the trailer hitch is out there, and I'll call the dock and make sure that there's room for us to put in where we normally launch. Fine. You just got to get clear.
Yeah. It's like
And
answering the question. It's like,
your purpose fishing? Is your purpose entertainment? Is it partying? Is it skiing? So the more clear you are on anything, the less amplification is needed, and the fewer blinders you run into. So how do you get unblocked? Get clear. After you get clear, then start looking at the dysfunction in the ways that you're thinking, the ways you're acting, the choice of places you're going and people you're associating with, systems you're using. There were systems you could be using, all that, everything else is either a potential door opener or block.
and the more you know yourself, the more you get familiar with yourself, the more those things will be clear. It's when that's muddy that this is muddy. But the clearer we are here, the clearer who should I be with, where,
Exactly.
that just gets so clear because it just doesn't match.
So it all starts with know thyself.
Mhm.
When I wrote the book, The Acorn Principle, Can you read what it says?
Find out how rich, full, and rewarding your life can be. The Acorn Principle, know yourself, grow yourself.
Know yourself to grow yourself. So people said, Jim, what is the Acorn Principle? And I tell them it's a self-guided tour of you. What?
Mhm.
This book walks you through a series of chapters, thought processes, to determine what makes you who you are and what does that mean. And so the whole idea of the Acorn Principle is discover, is this a pine cone, an acorn, a seed? You know, what is it? Right?
Mhm. Right. And then we can take a look at what gifts come with that, because that's part of knowing what gifts, what intuitive gifts
Yeah.
enhance that.
By the way, what crops were your, what was your great grandfather trying to grow?
You know, I would have to ask Mom. I'm not sure.
Find out before it's too late.
Okay.
People that know what went before, they fade away way too soon. So find out while you can, because it may be that that's an even better element for your metaphor.
Okay.
For me, pretty clear what my metaphor is. You know, it's acorns. Up and down and all around, and that stuffed animal right there is a squirrel, which totally goes with acorns, you know. And I give out the little pewter acorns when I'm with somebody and I get a feeling that maybe some encouragement or something is in order. I give them that little reminder to carry around with them of their own potential. When I do bookmarks, ta-da,
Oh yeah. Cool.
right? There's acorns everywhere when you get around me. So look for yours. Don't force it, by the way. It'll come. The acorn didn't come for me until, let's see, I started this business in 1976, 77. And in 1990, seven, I was talking with Spencer Johnson, who wrote Who Moved My Cheese and co-authored The 1 Minute Manager with Ken Blanchard. He was a neighbor of mine in La Jolla, San Diego. And he said, so what are you working on? And I told him about my book. And he said, what's the title? I said, Rethinking Yourself. He said, why don't you call it the Acorn Principle? I said, why would I call it that? He said, well, that story you tell about an acorn that's trying to grow up to be a giant redwood, which is clearly an exercise in futility. And it goes to redwood camp and it reads redwood books and it gets redwood mentors and it's still an oak, but a very insecure oak. He said, that's a perfect metaphor. He said, so it's ignoring its own potential because it doesn't know its potential or respect its own potential. And that's what your book's about. So call your book The Acorn Principle. I said, but people won't know what that is. He said, I know, that's what will cause them to pick it up. So I did, and he was right, and it worked. So that's when my acorn-ness grew.
Wow, that's cool.
Yep. And we've
Okay.
all got those, you know, there are natural metaphors like that. But I love the acres of diamonds or the, you know, acres of fertilizer. You could have fun with that as well.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Michelle, back to you for a minute, or Lisa, if you're still on there. Oh, I see you got your hand raised. I don't notice those very often, so pardon me that I didn't see that. But
That's okay. I'm still here and I'm still not back to my office, but I'm getting there. But I have a story I want to share. And I think Janelle will really enjoy this. It's actually a Zig Ziglar story. But when I became certified with the Ziglar organization, I knew I had to find something for my openings and it was not going to change. So here it goes. And give me a minute because it's 3 minutes long. Okay. So you'll enjoy this. Okay, so I start, it's communication, leadership, whatever it is. I want to begin today by telling you a story. It's a true story. Down in South Texas, just south of Beaumont, Texas, there was a farmer who was having to sell his property. He was having to sell it simply because times were so tough. He couldn't feed his family. One day, an oil company representative came along and he said, "Sir, we believe there could be oil on your property. If you will allow us to drill for it, we'll pay you royalties on every barrel we discovered." Man had nothing to lose, everything to gain. He said, "Hey, let's do it." Well, would you believe the oil company came out? They looked, they found, they jugged, they drilled, they dug, they drilled some more. And would you believe it was a gusher? Over 100,000 barrels of oil were found on this man's property. 3 oil companies came out of this field. You can Google it. Beaumont, Texas, turn of the century, 1901. 3 oil companies came out of this field. The man became an instant millionaire. Or did he? The man had owned the property for all his life, some 30 years. 30 years. Think about that. And he became an instant millionaire. We who work in the self-development, personal growth and development field, we find in each and every one of us, we have oil, we have gold, we have diamonds, but unless we drill for it, we dig down deep inside and take it to the surface, bring it to the marketplace, we will never realize the value that it has for us, for our family, for our community, and for our, I deal with a lot of churches, so I say churches. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to drill down. We are going to dig for the oil, the gold, the diamonds. And each and every one of us is going to find something unique and different for you. You ready to get started? Let's go. So that's how
cool. I
and
like
that's
that.
a Ziegler
Yeah.
story.
That's excellent. Excellent, Lisa.
Well, I thought Janelle might enjoy that. And you can Google it because I certainly Googled it and made it my
Cool.
own. But it is a Ziegler story that has forever resonated with me. And I don't open anything that I do without telling that story.
I don't blame you. That stimulated an idea for me. Were you going to say something, Janelle?
I just said, great job telling it, Lisa.
Good.
That in itself was a lesson. I was hearing how, because sometimes we can say what we're saying is a lesson, but sometimes how we say something is also a lesson. So thank you for
Lisa was
that.
delivering that as if she were live in front of an audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could feel it. The one time I went to a Rotary Club meeting in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the speaker was an oil man, as you would expect often happen in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we lived there for 6 years. And this guy, he said, I went out one day to a guy's property. We had been drilling in this area, and right in the middle of the drilling area, there was this one old rundown farm with abandoned pickup truck up on blocks and weeds growing all over the place and chicken wire fence and hogs and things like that. And this old hayseed of a farmer was out there, and he had never sold the rights to drill in his property. And we were finding oil all around him. And I said, why, what's the deal? I mean, he's right in the middle of a rich oil field. Why hadn't anything happened? And they said, oh, we've tried going out there to talk to him, and he doesn't want to sell. He doesn't trust anybody, and he's not interested in giving up oil rights. And so he said, well, let me take a shot at it. And they said, okay. So he went out there, and he didn't call on the guy. He just went out there and was near the guy's property within earshot one day. And he was just kind of hanging around doing whatever, trying to look busy. And this old guy came out. And so he looked over at him through the fence, and he said, how's it going? He said, oh, hey, how you doing? And they started talking. And he said, what's different about your place? He said, what do you mean? He said, well, look, all this around here, there's, you know, the oil drilling going on everywhere. Is there not any oil on your property? He said, I don't know. He said, they come around all the time offering me things, but they, you know, they're trying to cheat me. Really? They're trying to cheat you? What's going on? Oh, they offer me, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I know, you know, that it's all a ruse. Well, what do you mean? He said, well, this guy came around the other day and he told me they give me, I don't know, $100,000 up front, and then I would get X percent ongoing. And I told him, get out of here and leave me alone. He said, well, why would you run him off? That's a lot of money. He said, yeah, but you know what? I got a brother lives 2 counties over. He got a brand new pickup truck. Really? Well, that's interesting. What kind of truck did he get? Oh, he got a, you know, name it, a Ford Silver, Chevy, something XYZ with all these features and a big engine and da-da-da-da-da. Well, that's fascinating. So this guy goes back to the office and he says, hey, Janell, I want you to go out and call on this guy. And I want you to drive up in a truck with these features, which was his brother's truck, plus like 2 or 3 levels higher. A really impressive truck. He said, I want you to, you know, just go out and either buy a truck or lease one for a week, and go out there and call on this guy and say, hey, I want to make you an offer for the drilling rights on your property. And we don't even have to come on your property. We can drill at an angle. We'll be fine. And if you'll do it, we'll pay you da 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 da, and I'll give you the keys to this pickup truck. He did it, and the guy said yes instantly. So, oil story, you know, same thing. Oil was there. This guy thought he was being cheated, even though they were offering him more money than he'd ever seen in his whole life combined. And it was all about competing with his brother. And when he got a better truck than Bubba got, all of a sudden he gave up the oil rights and became a rich man. So a lot of times where the solution is, not where we think it is. By the way, folks, I've got to go today because I've got a top of the hour interview. So I need to scoot for that one. But this has been awesome. And I love the stories you've shared and the stories you've evoked as well. So see you soon.
Guys. Thank you.
Thank you very
Have
much.
a great rest of your week.
Take
Have a
care.
great holiday
Bye,
weekend.
Michelle.
Oh, that's
Bye,
right.
Lisa.
Happy Memorial Day. Yep.
Happy
Yep.
Memorial
Thank you, guys.
Day.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.